It's Halloween once again, and yes, it is the time to discover more spooky stories and listen to stories that blur the line between reality and nightmares. Here is the darker side of Halloween. True stories that prove sometimes the scariest things aren't the costumes or haunted houses, but the real horrors hiding in plain sight. So grab your popcorn, turn down the lights, and prepare for 3 terrifying, true Halloween stories that will make you question just how safe the night really is. Are you ready? Story 1, The Haunting on Elm Street. It was Halloween night, and the Smith family had just moved into their new home. It was an old, beautiful, Victorian house on Elm Street. The realtor had told them the house had been on the market for years, but no one wanted to live there. From the moment they stepped inside, something felt off. The air was heavy, thick with something they couldn't quite place. It felt colder inside than it was outside, even with the fireplace roaring. Their youngest daughter, Sarah, seemed especially uneasy. She kept looking over her shoulder and staying close to her parents. When asked why, she whispered, "There's a man in the house." Of course, they thought it was just her imagination. It was a big old house after all, and Sarah was only 7. But things quickly got stranger. The Smiths started hearing footsteps on the stairs when no one was there. Doors would slam shut by themselves and cold drafts of air would rush through the house, even with all the windows closed. But the worst part was the whispering. At night, when everything was quiet, they could hear faint whispers coming from the walls, too soft to understand. One evening during dinner, the lights flickered and suddenly went out, putting the house into darkness. Then they heard a blood-curdling scream from upstairs. It was Sarah. The family rushed up the stairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. They found Sarah curled up in the corner of her room, shaking in fear. "He's here," she whispered. "Mr. Davis is here." That's when the Smiths decided to dig into the house's history. What they found was horrifying. The previous owner, an old man named Mr. Davis, had died under mysterious circumstances. The townspeople had different stories. Some said he had a heart attack. Others claimed he simply vanished. But one thing was clear. Mr. Davis had been obsessed with dark magic. He believed he could cheat death by binding his soul to the house. And it seemed he had succeeded. The Smiths tried everything to rid the house of Mr. Davis's spirit. They called in priests, paranormal experts, and even a shaman. But nothing worked. The ghost was stuck, growing more powerful and angry with each passing day. The hauntings got worse. Objects flew across the room. Doors slammed shut with such force that the walls shook, and Sarah's nightmares became worse and terrifying. Finally, they couldn't take it anymore. In the middle of the night, the Smiths packed their bags and fled, leaving everything behind. The house on Elm Street still stands, a dark and horrifying reminder of the terrible secret it holds. So if you ever find yourself near Elm Street on Halloween, remember that some places are better left undisturbed. Story 2, The Cursed Music Box. It all started when I found an old wooden box in my grandma's attic. It was a beautiful box, fine carved with brass handles that had aged over time. My grandma couldn't remember where it came from, so she told me I could keep it. Little did I know, this innocent-looking box was far from ordinary. When I got home, I opened it, and a soft, sweet melody started playing. At first, the music was lovely, almost calming. But then, the tune started to change. It became darker, the notes more twisted and scary. Before I knew it, I was dancing. My feet moved on their own, spinning me around the room. At first, it was fun, But then it became terrifying. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop. Hours passed, my legs ached, my chest burned, and I was covered in sweat. But still, I kept dancing, unable to stop until the music finally ended. I collapsed, exhausted and frightened. I didn't know what had just happened, but I knew one thing for sure. That music box was cursed. The next day, my little sister Amy came over. She saw the box and, curious, asked to hear it play. I hesitated, but before I could stop her, she wound it up. The music started again, and Amy's eyes glazed over. Just like me, she began to dance, slowly at first, but then her movements became weird and desperate. I tried everything to stop her, but nothing worked. Hours later, she too collapsed when the music ended. That's when I knew the box was dangerous. I started researching cursed objects, especially music boxes. Most of what I found seemed like nonsense, but a few stories were similar to mine. Some talked about people dancing until they dropped dead. One story even explained how to break the curse. You had to destroy the box at midnight on a full moon. It sounded crazy, like something out of a horror movie, but I was desperate. I waited until the next full moon, took the box deep into the woods, and at midnight I raised a hammer to smash it. But just before I brought it down, I hesitated. The box was so beautiful. What if I just played it one more time? No. I forced myself to do it. I smashed the box to pieces, and as I did, I heard a terrible scream. It sounded like 100 voices, crying out in pain all at once, then silence. I thought it was over, but even now, I sometimes hear that haunting melody on the wind. And I see strangers moving with the same strange grace I remember from my cursed dance. I thought I'd destroyed the curse, but maybe I only set it free. So if you ever find an old music box, think twice before you open it. Once that music starts, it may never stop. Story 3: The White Doll. One of my earliest Halloween memories is going trick-or-treating with my older brother. I was just a kid, and my costume wasn't anything special. A last-minute garbage ghoul outfit made from a torn trash bag and some old makeup. I didn't care. I was just excited to get candy. My brother, who was 13 at the time, agreed to take me along with his friends. We went from house to house, filling our bags with candy and having a blast. At one house, a man gave me something small and white. I didn't think much of it at the time, but when we got home and dumped our candy on the table, my mom's face went pale. In the middle of my candy pile was a small white rag doll. My mom started crying and called the police. I didn't understand why until she told me a story from her childhood. Years ago, a little girl in town had come home from trick-or-treating with a similar white doll in her candy bag. A few days later, a strange man approached her in the park, claiming he had given her the doll. The girl's mom intervened, and the man just walked away. Not long after, the little girl disappeared, and all they found was a white doll in her room. The police never found her, and the story became local folklore. My mom was terrified that history was repeating itself. The police took the doll seriously. They searched the neighborhood for any signs of the man who had given it to me, but they found nothing. The town went into a panic, but fortunately, no one else went missing. Still, the fear remained. Even though nothing bad happened to me, I sometimes wonder what might have happened if my mum hadn't noticed the doll. It's a creepy memory that has stayed with me ever since. Don't these stories remind us that sometimes the real horror isn't what's in the movies, it's what happens in real life? So this Halloween, be careful. You never know what dark secrets might be hiding around the corner.